Welcome to Open Tech Talks.tv. Today we have a guest speaker with us, Gray Mabry, CEO of iVenture Solutions. Welcome, Gray, to the Open Tech Talks.
Thanks for having me.
So, if someone is listening today to our show, and in his first mind, first question comes about now who's Gray on the show. So, if you want to introduce yourself to the audience.
Sure. Who am I? That's a very broad question, but in the context of business, I've had the fortunate opportunity to be the founder and CEO of a IT outsourcing company called iVenture, which I've run and developed for the past 23 years.
Okay, 23 years.
Yeah.
That's sound very promising, running the long time. And when you say it's IT outsourcing company, so it's more of a staffing augmentation or a managed services contracts, or how you define it.
Sure. It's a managed service offering, and so put very simply, we approach businesses that either don't have in-house IT staff or have gaps and needs within their current IT staff, and we provide expertise, consulting, and expert technicians and consultants to help solve those challenges.
Okay, and let's maybe from last 2 to 3 years, is it some specific technology focus area, or it's across the board? Anything it comes, you just pick it up.
It's for some of our clients, it's anything with technology. If it could be a Wi-Fi enabled microwave, and it falls within our scope. And then I'd say for other clients that have a more complex IT footprint, it's specific areas, whether that be network management, whether that be security, whether that be customer experience / help desk. We would fit in and very specifically fill those gaps.
Mhm. Okay. And how do you see from last, let's take an example of 20 years.
Sure.
So how the business you're transformed starting from day one to now after 23 years? Was the same?
I can answer that in two ways. Like in some ways, a lot of the core principles are still the same, which is, start with a good strategy, design things right to begin with. And it may seem
Mhm.
harder at the front end, but then the outcomes are smoother and better long run. I don't think that's changed. But if I had one thing around tech to say, the first 10 years of the business were relatively the same. And then we started seeing in that kind of 15 to 20-year mark, we started seeing a little bit of cloud, things accelerated. And I think the last
Mhm.
3 years have been drastically faster than the previous 20 years. So the rate of change and the rate of new technology being introduced to the world of our clients is exponentially faster than it's been in the last 20 years, for sure.
Mhm. Okay. Okay, so let me give you some context to it, because in my previous role I was also working in one of the technology company, and we were doing a managed services contracts, and these managed services contracts were the same way. You take it up any technology
Mm-hmm.
component for that organization now, and this is widespread business. Now, if we talk about from a customer's point of view, how they see the value out of it, because if you see the industry, sometime it was okay, let's outsource, give someone to manage service, and then suddenly another wave started. No need, there's no benefit out of, bring it back to the in-house capabilities. So there was a, like last, if we talk about 10 years, there was some this the wave of tradition, wave of I think situation. So now how do you see, or what was happening over the last 10 years, and how do you see currently going on?
Sure. It's funny that you describe that wave. I feel like we ride this wave up and down every few years. If I had to describe the recent, I don't know, the last 3 or 4 years, I think we went through a wave where, partnerships for expertise, outsourcing, managed service expertise. We went through a down wave where it was, the cloud will enable everything to be self-service, super easy. Everyone in our business will be able to just simply think and consume the technology that's in front of them, and it will appear.
Mhm.
Then we went through a wave of what I would call cloud sprawl, where
Mhm.
we ended up with way more applications and services than we knew what to do with. We had sprawl within organizations. And I think now we're back to when do we need to bring in a specific group of experts for specific things? And so we're back to outsource that expertise. It's hard to find and keep in house. Like who has the broad picture? And I think though that is centered really around the strategy. What do we actually need for our business? What do we want? Just because it's easy out there and easy to consume, it doesn't mean it's the right fit or it's the right time. So it's the strategy to assess what we need, determine, make a decision, and then implement correctly. So that strategy piece is very important. Our security profile across our clients, our security footprint is significantly more complicated. So it's
Mhm.
about protecting the data that's behind the data that lives within these services, and having a coordinated protection across all of these services. And then I think the last piece is adoption. And I think when you see the average user may have gone through a period of uh, almost like they became, I would say, disenfranchised, like all sorts of new things being thrown at them. Things maybe didn't work as they thought or expected. Maybe the products weren't terribly mature. And now it's about putting things in front of users that they can adopt and then make a big difference in their life to be better at what they're doing. So I know that was a kind of a
Mhm.
long answer, but we're back on a wave of targeted expertise. Makes a lot of sense to get the best value out of the cloud ecosystem.
Mhm. Okay. Now you use the word of cloud sprawl, and that was when the cloud started 4 5 years back. So how do you see the situation? I mean, if I relate to this question further, that now with all these four, five major cloud providers, and then suddenly it's become from one cloud to a multi-cloud, and then now multi-cloud, how to manage these now multi-cloud providers, and how to make sure that I can optimize and make sure I can get the right services. So how do you see with from a customers, because you're managing those environments?
Sure. Um, I would say cloud sprawl is still a very much a real problem. I mean, I
Mhm.
could even maybe say in my own organization, we may have 4 different products doing the same thing, but therefore, maybe people have different preferences. But what we see now is a harder look at the spend. So I'll start there. The CFO is taking a hard look at why do we have multiple services, and what do these
Mhm.
services do, and what's the return on investment of these services. And that's leading back to, sort of that first pillar, which is our strategy. And with that is a governance of the strategy, which is what are we trying to accomplish? Where are we going to focus our efforts this year or this quarter? Um, what tools and technologies are we going to use that support that strategy, and staying rigorous to that? And then,
Mhm.
what's our adoption plan? And really
Mhm.
staying in the lanes on that. So it's kind of reminds me of the old days, right? The CFO held the ultimate decision on whether you would buy hardware, right, or whether you'd buy a
Right.
piece of enterprise software. And now then things became so easy to consume and perceived as low cost, and now we've
Mhm.
taken full circle to where the financial controls help realign us to strategy and governance.
Mhm. Okay. And now maybe I will add to the one comment. As still all the cloud adoption and all that, still there is a major footprint is on premise. Still, it's there,
Correct.
and now we started seeing some of these geopolitical or regional situation, and then each country started talking about sovereign clouds, and and all those things now started popping up in different regions. And in your opinion, or maybe in with while working with customers, what are you seeing in the market?
There's a again, I think when the mass adoption started, there may have been what company or where is this, and it was sort of dismissed. Now we have a very serious conversation around where's the data actually stored, who has access to the data, what's our backup plan. This is a big question. What if we don't want to use this service anymore? Let's go ahead and plan a migration to another service or to get the data out just in case. So now we talk about, obviously an interest of they want to know where the data, we want to know where the data is, and we want to know that it's perhaps in the territory where they're doing business. But now let's go ahead and plan for an exit if we need to. And of course, there's an entire suite of technologies and tools that are available just for that purpose. But that seems to be the safety net that we want to incorporate in our planning. Our clients want us to incorporate in their planning.
Okay. Now, maybe coming back to for someone who's new and he's maybe an IT head or a CTO or CIO who's listening to us, and he's running his show within internal teams. He never done the managed services. So if he comes to you as a Gray, that what are some three big key benefits he will get out of the managed services or maybe outsourcing to it? What you will give them?
Well, I mean, I could probably come up with 100 benefits. No, I'm kidding. Three. I think the story is largely, it's really focused on the exposure to build that expertise. And I think, and I want to be clear, like our best client relationships and some of our deepest client relationships are with internal IT teams. So I don't subscribe to the idea it's either outsourced or you don't. I think the hybrid model is extremely effective, but certain things I think work better for outsourcing. And I would say we'll talk about cloud and security just for a minute. On average, one of our, I'll just take a cloud migration specialist at our company may have performed 100 migrations in the last year. And so you get this wide view, this expertise. These are people who touch this cloud technology every single day. So it isn't just a one-time project that was done in the enterprise. We haven't touched it in 5 years. These are people who do it over and over again. So I'd say that number one is this exposure repeatedly to these technologies. I think the second piece is specialization. There are some great IT people, but the ones that get really, really, really good at what they do are the ones that can dive into a specific technology and learn it well. Of course, I think having broad knowledge is important, but when you can really take the time to focus on one thing, you become really good at it. And then I think the third thing that we offer as an outsource is there's a level of governance that I think we bring. And, part of it is we're audited. Part of it is we're insured. We have all these regulatory controls that work within our organization. And when we bring that governance to a client, we're automatically bringing that package to them. And I think that's a level that we don't often see within internal IT. But again, internal IT, for lack of a better way to put it, internal IT knows all the skeletons in the closet. And so that hybrid model of a great outsourced provider working with a great internal team that knows the business inside and out, that knows the personality of the business and the users, I think together can be a very effective combination.
Okay. Thank you for answering this. And now you mentioned one point on the cloud technology specialization and a person who has done hundreds of migrations. This brought me to a question of how you are making sure to get the right talent within your organization.
If there's one thing that's been consistent in my field in 23 years, it's where do you find the talent? Where is the talent coming from? How do you keep and retain great talent? For us, it's really been a journey of building a bench internally to develop that talent. And I think a few things go into that. I think having a formalized program to bring in talent that is new to IT and to put real training or real experience share in front of those individuals to give them an opportunity to grow that talent, and having
Mhm.
that warm bench internally. So that means, we're not relying on tech schools. We're not solely relying on tech schools or
Right.
solely relying on recruiters. It's knowing that having an in-house people engine is incredibly important and has been since day one. And I think a lot of people miss that. HR becomes an
Mhm.
admin function. And I think really,
Mhm.
if you're a service business, it is your product. It's a product that is the product that you're putting out there. So a tremendous amount of effort on our part goes into bringing in talent that's early to IT. Usually with some baseline, right? Some
Right.
education and some maybe light experience, and then a very structured, in-depth, multi-year training program to help grow from that we'll call entry level or
Mhm.
tier one into network professionals and security professionals, and really make a lifelong career out of it. And then of course the back end of that is building a culture where people want to stay for life.
Mhm.
And that's an incredibly important piece too. And for that, it is making sure that we're growing at a rate that is not stressing the company or
Mhm.
damaging clients, but is creating enough new opportunities on a regular basis so that people can progress in their careers and find a long-term home here.
Okay, thank you. So now you must be hiring, right? Every day, every month. So what are the maybe few key qualities you target in the candidates? And this question is to help if someone is listening
Sure.
from a hiring that they can get out of it.
Sure. I think the first quality we look for is, do you have a customer orientation? And that could be, we could say, you're wired to help other humans. So notice I'm not talking about specifically technology.
Right.
I'm looking for, is your natural tendency to help another person, in whatever, their time of need is. And so,
Mhm.
and again, that we interview great people that maybe they're more naturally techie than they are,
Right.
and that's okay. But
Mhm.
we're really looking for, I mean, it could be as simple as, tell me about a time in a previous job when you stayed late to help somebody out. And notice that question wasn't what would you do? It's tell me about a time you did. And so
Mhm.
we'll look for experience share from candidates to talk about these experiences where they went out of their way to help another person get through something. And so that's sort of the first thing we look for.
Mhm.
Um, we go through a process of which, a lifelong career we calculated as about 91,000 hours at work. So
Mhm.
we go through a process to figure out, very simply, we call it the road trip test. At the end of an interview, you're going to go on a 5-hour road trip with the candidate. And do you feel excited about it, or are you uncomfortable with it? And we always go back to,
Mhm.
if uncomfortable, then we need to keep asking questions to get comfortable or disqualify. So again, most of our questions start with this. We're trying to get an orientation of where the person sits. We know that when we hire that person who will give themselves to others, that is going
Mhm.
to equate not just for our customers, but that person is going to give back to other employees and then in return receive back. So we create some
Mhm.
peer learning based on that model.
Mhm. Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you for that. Now, eh, eh, I think, shift the discussion to two areas which are interlinked to it. As with over the last one year, AI became suddenly at the top of the agenda
Mm-hmm.
from a market hype point of view. So that must be when wherever you are working with different partners, customers, and how do you are seeing them, that is there a requirement, is there on AI on the agenda, and then from a budgeting point of view, that are they started putting money on it, that yes, now we need to look into maybe talent, maybe some projects, or maybe some thought process that how we can embrace in the organization, as the technology is moving very fast, but how the customers need adoption, that matching is happening. How do you, how you're seeing it?
If I would say, I think the technology, well, I don't think the technology is moving faster than our average customer can adopt. So I'm just going to use AI for a minute. I mean, I think every customer, has a group of people that are experimenting, right? Like,
Mhm,
I
mhm,
was asked a question about, am I embracing AI? And I jokingly said, I think half of what I do is AI driven. at this
Mhm.
point, whether it be an email response or something like that.
Right.
But we focus a lot on, we call it, it's really a customer readiness model.
All right.
And there's a few things to that, which is, and the same could apply for employees as well. I mean, me included as an
Right.
employee. So the readiness model looks basically like, okay, um, do I know how to use the technology, right? Do
Mhm.
I, that could be as simple as, is it built into applications that I'm using, or is it another tool, another cloud service that we're using? So do I know how to use it? But then the piece that we have to really focus on is, do I know why I'm using it? Uh,
Right.
do I see a value in using it? Why
True.
am I using it? And so this is a litmus test question, going back to the earlier conversation about governance and do we add something into the portfolio of cloud services? And it's, why am I using this? And is there a benefit to me doing this? And I think that's a much harder question to ask. And
Right.
for our customers, we can answer that. When they can answer that question, I know why I'm using this. It saves me time, or it provides, I can do something better for my customers, or we're more secure, whatever the answer to that is. When that can be
Mhm.
answered, now the user, think about an average user of technology. Now
Right.
the user's pulling us, saying, I want to use this, I need to use this, versus, the worst is you're pushing technology on
Mhm.
people, and they're like,
Mhm.
I'm busy and I don't see the value. So I think we have to get that narrative right first, and then it becomes a much smoother path.
Right. And I will just relate to the conversation that there are two things I'm also observing. One is where vendors goes and then they push it that okay, there are some use cases, and then you say that you need to use from AI point of view
Mhm.
in any customer circumstances in any department. And then there are certain set of customers where they really actually want to see, no, it's not about AI, what business problem I'm having in hand and how AI or something can solve it.
Mhm.
And that's they are in the better position. And the other one is they are just trying to being pushed to do something on the AI side. And now this is a situation, but there's a thin line where CIO is also having a pressure that do something with AI. Right.
Right.
It's like become a fashion that no, I need to do something with something, and that's something maybe with any function and within your business, irrespective of if you're solving a business problem or not.
Sure. I think there's I definitely believe there's a narrative coming from the boardroom, and our own company included, to where we
Hmm.
feel like we have to, tell our friends and colleagues what we're doing with
Hmm.
AI. And so I think that can translate down to, okay, everybody needs to, get AI in some way in their individual departments, as an example. And I think that maybe the message that we are thinking about a little bit differently is,
Hmm.
we would like, and this gets into like failing safe to experiment and things like that, but we could go into a narrative in our company might be, we want each department to experiment with a different AI tool in the next quarter and report back highs and lows, so we can all have a shared
Hmm.
learning experience. So rather than prescribing an outcome, like you need to be using AI in your
Hmm.
respective area, we're more prescribing experimentation, which is, see what you can do with it, what's high and low, and share that, and then we can collectively get closer to more productive tools.
Hmm. Okay, all right. So how's maybe something about Gray? How's the typical day look like for Gray? Being a CIO, CEO of the company or a founder of the company, how do you where do you spend most of the time?
Um, it's funny. I've toyed with how to answer this question over the years, since as we've matured as a company, and our leadership team looks a little bit different. But in a nutshell, like my only job is making sure that I have a really happy and engaged leadership team in our
Mhm.
company. And if I can remove a roadblock for that team, if I can do something to help increase engagement, if I can, offer something to that group that helps them be their best and be in their best place, and then that's what I'm doing. So I spend a ton of time with my exec team. That's our operating president, our director of ops. Again, going back to how important talent is in a service-based business, it's not an admin function. I spend a lot of time in that area. Obviously financials, but it's really making sure that team is fully engaged and has everything they need to come to work every day and be their best. Separately, I'm a techie at heart, so it's not uncommon that I'll be over in the project team asking about an Azure tool that we're using for our clients, or a migration that went really well. Tell me more about how we did it differently this time. That still lives within inside of me. So quite a bit of that. And going back to new employees, training opportunity. I do training sessions with groups of new employees once a month. Emotional intelligence, different things like that, and just going back to the importance of building that bench of really great talent.
Okay. So thank you so much. Before we conclude, maybe a last question on the AI topic. Do you see any pattern on the use cases, or maybe from a problem solving point of view, or it's just randomly going over with different customers?
I can talk specifically about our business, a couple interesting things we're doing around AI that I think are, again, having gone through a governance process to determine what is it that we're trying to solve. I'll give two examples where I think AI will be, one for a customer view and one from a employee view. And so one is, I'll talk about customers first. And, we've all been around customer satisfaction surveys and NPS and things like that. And what we know is that measures a very slim subset of what's actually happening in your customer base. And so what we're doing, which I think is very unique, is using AI to analyze virtually all communication. And I'd say we're taking a subset of communication, working towards all communication. So email, transcribed phone calls, we work on obviously service tickets, ticket updates, analyzing tone, analyzing issues to really tell us, how do the individuals at a customer feel about the service they're receiving? How do we feel about the service we're providing? And what are the actual, not what's the type of ticket or but what's actually going on here? So the idea is raising that customer intelligence, both from a technical and an emotionally intelligent way, so that we can be absolutely spot on with the service we're providing. So much so is that we know the personality of the person who is on the other end of the phone before we even say hello. So there's some really interesting things around that. I'm passionate about it because I think we've all had that mediocre customer experience with XYZ vendor, and this is us taking steps to make sure that we never go down that road. Using AI on the employee side is interesting because what we're now doing is looking, what are the characteristics of our most engaged and happiest employees? So not just the basics of, well, what did you do before? But take a resume, take a LinkedIn profile, take an entire body of work of your entire career and education history. I mean, even nuances about how you grew up and where. How can we identify these markers at the very beginning so that when we make that job, we look at job offers as a two-way street, right? So we would be doing a disservice by making an offer to someone that we didn't think would be a lifer. And so we can look at some markers ahead of time so that we are doing our best for those candidates to become employees. And I think that'd be a real win, for us.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Gray, for joining and sharing your insights on it. So if, as a last question, so as a CEO, what is your one of the favorite tool which you need to, you can't run without the business?
My favorite.
Is there any tool?
Well, I mean, I just my Outlook calendar, just because I wouldn't know where to go or what to do. But, no, I mean, as of late, I mean, aside from some of the internal metrics and reporting, but I've had a lot of fun with ChatGPT, and I would say, professionally, it's been helpful just to save time and optimize. But I'd say personally, we get at least one bedtime story a week for my 11-year-old daughter. That we co-create with ChatGPT, and that's just been a really fun bonding moment. So That's my favorite tool right now for that purpose.
True, and you rightly said. And I also did the same thing with my 10 years son. And I said, okay, let's write a book that how to build a character in the kids, you
Yeah,
know. And then we start asking questions, and then it become like a quite very good exercises it gives, that okay, parents need to do these different type of exercises which build the character building. I was astonished, frankly, to see those exercises.
think about, so we're new, right? We're new to prompting
Yeah,
chat. We're new to prompting AI. Like we're learning how to
true,
talk to it.
true,
I
true.
think about, like you mentioned, a 10-year-old, 11-year-old. Think about when our children enter the workforce, they're going to be absolute pros at interacting and really elevating that AI experience. So I'm
Mm.
super fascinated to see what that looks like. I think.
True, true. No, I had a chat with some kid in Australia that he was, I think, 12 or 13 years, and then he started teaching how to use ChatGPT to the above 50, 60 years
I love
old
it.
in his community.
I
And
love it.
then and yeah, and then I had a chat with the kid, and I really enjoyed it. And he was saying that now even in schools, the teacher started asking him that, okay, how it's just become his extracurricular activity.
I
And
love
then he was happy that he started making even dollars.
it. Yeah, even better.
Yeah, even better.
That's a
All right,
great.
thank you so much, Gray, for joining me for today's talk. Really appreciate for waiting for I think 5 minutes. We got late. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Take care.